Hello, everyone. Today I want to talk about why I sold all of my knives. So, basically the only, I have more than this. I mean, I also have this one, but it's the same as this, other than this is a glass blast, this is sand blast. But these are basically the only two knives I have left. This may change sometime in the future, but for right now, I'm really happy with what I have. Now, to preface this, I've owned a lot of knives. Recently, I sold off a Giant Mouse H Biblio XL. I've had a Giant Mouse Ace Iona V2. I've also had the Clyde. I've also had a bunch of Spydercos, mostly Shamans. I've had a lot of Shamans in different steels, CPM S90V, CPM 15V. I had them in CTS 204P, CTS XHP, which the XHP was the one that I recently just offloaded. I had two of them in CPM M4, and I had a Bodacious. And I'm trying to think if I had any others. I think as far as Shamans, that was it. But I've had a plethora of knives. At one time I had all three production models of the 940. I've had the Benchmade Griptilian 550. That one I do like. I hate that I have to modify it with scales in order to be happy with it. That really frustrates me. But that's a different topic for a different video. Right now I'm just going to talk about why I sold off all my knives. Sorry, I just got to get a drink of water here. Thank you. So it's hot here in Southern California, so we're in a heat wave, and we're starting to come off the heat wave. But anyway, so the reason I sold off all my knives is because of this. Literally because of this. This is probably the most perfect knife for me. It's not, which is weird, and the reason I say that is because I actually enjoy a very flicky knife, something I can open and close with one hand. I just tightened the pivot on this, so it's not quite drop shut, but it's a little wrist, and it'll go in. It's smooth, but you slow roll it out. Like, you could flick it. I mean, it will flick. You can even reverse. It's harder to do on camera, but I can reverse flick it, but you got to put some wrist into it. So I sold all my knives because they had little nitpicky things, and there's even nitpicky things about this and even this. But I'll tell you what, this is almost perfect for me, this knife. The Shamans I really liked. I liked the ergonomics. I liked the way it felt in my hand. I enjoyed the way, I really liked the flat grind, and the fact that, like, for this Benchmade, so from the edge to the spine, there's not a lot of real estate or ramp, right? So this tends to be very thick behind the edge, where the Shaman had a thick blade stock, but because it was such a taller blade, it allowed for a lot of thickness behind the edge. Or sorry, a lot of thinness behind the edge. Sorry, I'm fumbling my words. This is a good knife. I've sharpened this to about 17 degrees per side on the bevel, and it's pretty slicey now. As you can tell, the bevel is pretty high. Like, it's got a very high bevel, but it's a good knife. And I would definitely recommend a 940 if you like them. But it's not perfect. This has blade play. It's hard for me, like, even now after I've tightened the pivot, it's got a slight minute amount of blade play. If I push up on it's still got it, and it's not quite drop shut. Like, I got to coerce it in. That'll break in with use because I just cleaned and tightened the pivot, retightened the pivot. But, that's the nature of the access lock, and that's the nature of Benchmade, honestly. because I've seen companies make an access lock now, because this is no longer patented. They make an access lock now that doesn't have that issue. And with the Shamans and the Bodacious, I also had that issue with the compression lock. It would have just the slightest bit of blade play, but it would have a drop shut action. And so I accepted it. With the Chris Reeve, I don't have a drop shut action, but I do have a smooth action. And no blade play at all. I mean, the tolerances are so good on this that all I got to do is tighten the pivot. Like a 32nd of an inch is the difference between a little blade play and no blade play. And that's amazing to me. I'm not a machinist, but I am an enthusiast when it comes to machining and well-machined gear. Well-machined gear. Another issue I had with the Shamans, and again, these are nitpicky things, but like the Shaman, right, kind of sat inside, it sat inside its blade kind of like that, right? Or this one, well, let me not mess that one up. Okay, right? The Inkosi and even the 940, the tip of the blade nestles itself well into the handles, right? Same thing here. Look how far that is into the hand. It's like here, right? That's good. Or the Shaman was more like there, right? Not enough to catch your anything, like, well, that actually kind of catches, but yeah, not enough to catch your like pants or a finger or something. But eventually, as you sharpen the blade, right, it's going to start poking out because you're taking material away. It was so close already to the edge of the handle that as you sharpen, it would start to poke out a little bit. And you can fix that by grinding down, you know, where the blade stop was. But that's kind of, it's not okay for me because I'm not huge on making major modifications to a knife like that. I would if I had to, but to make major modifications is, you know, other than like maybe changing pivots and screws and clips, those aren't major modifications. To me, like grinding down the blade, that's now you're doing something that's that was not intended to be done. Spyderco did not intend for their Shaman to be ground down, so that's a little bit of a design flaw. Where, like, you know, the tip of this is here, you know, the tip of this is here, and again, like I said on the Shaman, it's like there, you know, you're not catch your finger on it, but over time as you sharpen, it'll start to poke out a little bit, and yeah, and you would have to grind down the area where the blade would hit the stop pin in order to nestle that deeper into the handles, and that, well, I was not a big fan of that. Also, I'm not a huge fan of bearings. I don't really like bearings. I had an Ace Biblio XL, and that was a nice knife, but I ended up kind of giving it up because I'm not a bearings guy. Bearings tend to be kind of a diva, a prima donna when it comes to, you know, getting dirt in them, and washers are much better. That's why I really enjoy this, because I carried this forever, and I will continue to keep this because this was my first Grail knife, and this was something I just happened to look at in person, and I purchased it. I actually started off with a Sebenza, learned about the Inkosi, sold the Sebenza, and got an Inkosi, sold all my knives except for this one, and then bought another. I actually bought this one first, and then I bought this one. This is a Glass Blast Inkosi, and I like the plain handles myself. This is very attractive to me. I love that it's on washers, and very big washers. I love the tolerances. I really like the solid lockup. The thumb studs kind of suck. The thumb studs, I did get Sebenza thumb. Now my thumb is, you know, it's calloused over, so it's not so bad. But this, again, not a perfect knife. It has its issues for sure. But I'll tell you, this is, you know, when I purchased this 940, it was $200. Now it's $300. That's a kind of a problem to me, but I'm not going to get into that. This is $500, right? little steeper, a lot steeper actually for a lot of people. And I'm not saying you should buy these, or you should go out and buy an Umnumzan, or you should, like, I'm not saying that this is way better than what's out there. I mean, there's a lot of knives that are better than this. I don't even think you should buy one of these because, you know, the Kaiser has their clutch lock. Who else? The Duralock is Kershaw. You know, there's a bunch of manufacturers that are now implementing this lock, and I think there's a maker now. He actually came out with his own version of. So instead of an Omega spring, it's kind of like it's almost like a clip that would go into a ball hitch. You know, the pin for a ball hitch on a truck. It's kind of like that, and that's TJ Schwartz. TJ Schwartz Knives. He came out with a folding knife with his own patented spring mechanism. I have not had a chance to try it out, but it looks really neat. And I love that. People are innovating, and that's what I really love about this hobby becoming so popular now over the years, because people are innovating in ways that they weren't before. You know, I have had Omega springs break only once, but yeah, it's a pain when that happens because now my knife's like the lock kind of got jammed up and I couldn't really use the knife anymore, and that was a pain. Again, I've only had it happen once, but I've heard of other people having it happen to them. Sorry, I've heard of other people having it happen to them, and it's a bit of an ugly thing. And I think that Benchmade, you know, at $200 this was a decent knife. At $300 it's not. At $500 this is honestly a great knife. I mean, you're only getting a fraction more of what this is worth, right? Like, this is only fractionally better than this, but those little fractional differences are just, they're really beautiful. They're conducive to my interaction with the knife and using it every day. I just get a little bit of enjoyment from it, and I think you have to leave room for enjoyment when it comes to knives. Now, like I said, this kind of, it killed a lot of my love for my other knives. This is now my one and done. I'm going to keep this because I've always loved this knife, but I didn't think the Shaman would ever leave. I got rid of a lot of my Shamans over the years because I got tired of having 6 Shamans, and I just had the Bodacious and the Shaman and CTS XHP. But when I got this, I sold both the Bodacious and the Shaman and the Ace Biblio. That was more of a recent purchase, and I wasn't even sure I was going to keep it. So that was a spur of the moment decision when I bought that knife. But anyway, that's why I sold my knives, because I want better. And I'm not saying for you this is better, but if you get a chance, you know, to hold one of these or a Sebenza or an Umnumzan in person, although the Umnumzan might be kind of hard to hold in person. If you get it, and I have had an Umnumzan. I was able to purchase one and hold it in hand, and I didn't like it for personal reasons. I enjoyed this more, so I actually sold it. And no, I didn't scalp anyone. I just sold it just to get back what I put into it, which was $500. You know, that's how much they're going for. But that's why I sold my knives. I sold them because I found something that to me is better than anything I've handled. I'm not saying that this is going to be the case for you, but go out and try things. Try things, you know. If you like having a big knife collection, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm a bit of an odd bird in the sense that I don't like having a big knife collection. Big knife collections, you know, I did. I had like 6 Shamans, a Bodacious, you know, and then I had at the time I had the Giant Mouse Ace Iona V2. I had 3 of them. I had a big knife collection. I just got tired of it, so I condensed it down. And it got to the point where I just had a Shaman, a Bodacious, a 940, and I actually had another one of these in Magna Cut with the burnt copper orange scales that I never carried. I actually just ended up giving that to a buddy of mine because he wanted it. And I sold the rest of them. I purchased this one. Well, I purchased this one first, but then I also went ahead and purchased this one because I'm also a firm believer in 1 is none and 2 is 1. And now I have 2 of these, so I have 1. If I lose one, I have another one. This one I'm not going to buy a second one of just because I'm still going to carry this, but I don't think I'm going to carry it as often as I carry either of these. But anyway, that's just my little tidbit on why I sold all my knives, why I decided to downsize my EDC, at least as far as the knife side of things. And yeah, like I said, if you get a chance, handle these in person. Maybe you'll like it, maybe you'll hate it. Handle one of these in person. Handle any knife that you, if you can, any knife that you are interested in, handle it in person if possible, because that's how you're going to know if you like it. At least that's the case for me. Maybe it's not the case for you, but I think for the majority of people, when you try something in person, that's when you'll know, hey, I really like this, and I don't. And maybe over time you'll use it, and you'll decide, oh, maybe I don't like these things. Maybe this wasn't for me. I kind of had that with the Ace Biblio XL. Really liked it in person. The Ace Iona V2, really liked it in person. But then I eventually got rid of the Clyde, the Giant Mouse Clyde also. Got rid of it. They felt good in hand, they felt good in person, but then over time I kind of just fell out of love with them, where these I haven't fallen out of love with. But anyway, that's all I have to say about that. Thank you for listening. You guys have a good one. God bless you and your family. And remember, Jesus loves you. Bye-bye.